It's the day after a really tough loss, and Martin Luther King Jr. Day as well. Good evening, I am Dan Yorke. Welcome to my State of Mind. You know, Mondays are tough enough. Mondays in the middle of January are tough enough, and Mondays after Patriots Loss. Now, I'm a Giant fan. For those of you who've been following me on radio for a long time, you know that. For those of you who've heard me make commentary here, I'm a Giant fan. So I watched those games yesterday with high interest and no emotional involvement whatsoever. So I just got to be frank with you. So I can't manufacture the kind of feeling that so many of you have today over the Patriots having lost. So I didn't put any highlights into the show tonight. I didn't put any extended commentary about the Patriots into the show tonight, other than to say, come here, I'll give you a hug. Come here. Last night it was funny. I stopped after going to a buddy's house for the game. I left and stopped by one of the local pharmacies, CVS, and there's this guy there with the Patriots garb on. Pretty solid guy, I'm semi-solid. He was solid. I'm thinking, oh, this guy's not happy. Looked like he had a few. Got a big, gruffly beard. Got the bandana going. Got the necklaces going. Got the Brady jersey going. And he's in line in front of me to buy something. And I wanted to commiserate with him, but I couldn't think of the appropriate thing to say. So I guess 50 years on the planet plus have finally given me a little bit of maturity and common sense. I didn't say anything. So I woke up this morning feeling relieved that I didn't say anything. I'd that was a tough one. Because you never know when people are half in the bag, really upset about their Patriots loss, what's going to happen when you say something. So the moral of the story is I've learned to walk softly in Patriot Nation and Red Sox Nation as an avid Giant Yankee fan. And try to commiserate, but know when it's just not your time to commiserate. So, okay, enough of that. I'm with you. I'm not with you, but I'm with you. By the way, they had a heck of a run, and they played above themselves, I think, for most of the season. So you ought to take some solace in that. All right, let's go to the rundown. I had to make a little bit of a commentary. We do have some football stuff still because the end of the second game was unbelievable. Yes, this holiday is so important, yet I think it leaves you empty inside in some ways. Speaking of being left empty inside, this guy, I finally saw his first interview. This story, I think, has as much controversial nature as the parking ticket blitz story, and this was special. Very strange. All right, let's get right to it, and then I will introduce my guest. By the way, Ray Rickman is here. I want to talk to him about MLK Day and his swim empowerment stuff, and just get some perspective on the politics and the policies and the realities and the culture and the lifestyle of the Martin Luther King holiday. Speaking of, here's my initial thought on this, and I'll talk to Ray about this a little bit more during the broadcast in our second and third segments. Look, we've seen the footage. I was a youngster when Martin Luther King Jr., I was 2. I'm 52 years old. So I vaguely remember when we lost Martin Luther King Jr. It was a bad time, with the Kennedys and Martin and all of that. And, I was too young to understand how turbulent it was. Perhaps that was a terrific upbringing that I had from my parents, God rest their souls. But this was an incredible time in our history. And so now we've got the Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And the thing that really kind of gets to me is that the schools are closed. Now, I know it's a national holiday. It's weirdly observed by the private sector. A lot of companies are still working with no official day off. It's never made like the top 7 holiday cut that everybody has the day off. But the schools are closed. And it bothers me that the schools are closed because if, in fact, we have so much more progress we need to make, but it's more about subtle bigotry and racism in this country, it seems to me the way you tackle subtle bigotry and racism in this country is to have really high-level dialogue. And instead what we do is we call it a day, we close the schools, and we don't spend any time with our future generation talking about A, history, and B, what all this means. I don't know. Same for Veterans Day. Schools should be open on these important days, and the curriculum should be completely dedicated to the meaning of the national holiday. If we have so much work to do, and I believe we probably still do, why aren't we doing that? That's my thought. To the next headline here, to the next thought. Clay Pell fever. I have an itchy nose. Do you mind if I... Oh, I can't tell you how good that felt. That I wasn't gonna... Yeah, all right, Laura. I wasn't gonna make it. You don't do that on TV, but hey, it's my show, it's my state of mind. Whew, I feel better. Semi-live TV. The Clay Pell, I am so mad at the press. My fellow members of the media. Now I have I opine as well as report, right? So I have the best of both worlds. I'm not a pure journalist, not that there's anything called a pure journalist anymore. Objective journalism is a whole nother conversation and a theory we can talk about. But this local news media has been absolutely irresponsible in their star power wonderment over Clay Pell. Look, the guy hasn't even announced yet. For months, we've been dragging him along as if he's the second coming. He's married to Michelle Kwan. Nice, good for him. You know, he's Clay's grandson. I get it. But other than that, this fantasy that the news media has had, that you all are craving this guy to get in the race, it's been wholly irresponsible the entire way. So finally, with an open mind, I swear, I watched his first full interview over on NBC 10 and Bill Rapley. I can't show you the video because, you know, we're a Lynn Television associated with Channel 12, and I'd have to go through all the rigmarole to get you the video. But I watched 21 minutes of running time on the show. 13 times he said that we were going to move the state forward. 13 times in 21 minutes. Other than that, there was nothing substantial of any kind. There's some things, some concepts. This guy so far, empty vessel. He's a young man. He's well educated. He speaks 5 languages. Some people think it's cool that he married right. I don't know why, because he's a star. But you know what? They've been playing it low key, but now they're playing us. On Twitter last night, I almost threw up. He writes on Twitter, to @Michelle Kwan, the most incredible person in the world, my best friend, the love of my life, happy anniversary. She writes back to him, happy anniversary @Clay Pell. Do they talk to each other over dinner that way too? @Clay Pell, love you, best day of my life. You know what? You know what the old-fashioned thing to do? Maybe I'm dating myself. You know what married people usually do on their anniversaries? They send a card to each other, or they call each other, or they say to each other in person, I love you, happy anniversary, I'm so proud to be married to you, I'm so happy to be married. What is this on? So now they're using their celebrity on social media to, would they just stop it? Stop it with the Clay Pell. When he announces, he gets the same treatment everybody else does, and he better have some answers for the future of this state. Stop it. Cranston 2-year vacation. This story is as intriguing and bothersome as the parking ticket blitz in Cranston. I don't have time to get into the parking ticket blitz, but here's the headline today in the Providence Journal. Suspended police captain back at work. This is Todd Padalano, who's been off his job for 2 full years at near $100,000 a year salary. And he was internally charged with messing with some figures and some data about statistics regarding complaints against police officers, misconduct. Anyway, he's been out of work for 2 years, fully paid, looking for his due process, and the city administration couldn't give him a final hearing, and so they just choked it up and had him back to work. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent or whatever, but nobody should be off. Nobody, if they're innocent, ought to be out 2 years with that kind of a label, and nobody, if they're guilty, ought to be paid for 2 years. Alan, what are you doing there, Mayor Alan Fung? Wow. And lastly, real quick, post-game outbursts. I mean, the second game last night, did you hang around for it? Were you too upset? This is phenomenal. The Seahawks and the 49ers, an epic battle all the way down to the end. There's Kaepernick. Oh, there's a fumble. Da, da, da. He took the blame for the loss. He probably should have. 3 turnovers. This was an incredible play right here that went against the 49ers. His foot is gonna. Whoa, 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 oh, 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 oh. I don't want to see that anymore. It was bad. But okay, that was the game. And then, of course, at the end, Richard Sherman deflects a pass from Kaepernick to Crabtree in the end zone, interception, and then Erin Andrews decides that she's going to get an easy interview with Sherman at the end of the game.
There's not many guys who can make a play on this ball. Richard Sherman, who you said he was a wide receiver at Stanford. He's out of position, but he's able to turn enough and get his left hand on that ball.
Final play, take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm going to shut it for you real quick. LOB.
All right, and Joe, back over to you.
Yeah, that was shocking when it happened. But in a way, although it's really not what you want to see on television, it was a whole lot more real than some of the phony thanks and token answers, typical answers, I should probably say, of the athletes. I mean, and by the way, that Richard Sherman, he's brilliant. He's a communications major. He's articulate as all get out, and his trash talk is planned. I like him on my team. All right, on MLK and a whole bunch more. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Oh. This is a very important day. I mean, I don't have to tell you whose day we are celebrating here, Martin Luther King Jr., and it was only this past August that we celebrated 50 years since the Dream speech. You are going to show that sometime, Laura, aren't you? You promised me you would, but there you go.
I have a
All
dream.
right. There you have it. We have a dream. I don't want to race through that, but we're short on time, and I want to talk about the importance of this day. Ray Rickman is my guest. Come on back. Here's Ray. Hey, good afternoon. Good evening.
Thank you
Nice
for
to see you.
inviting me.
This day is really important. Okay, let's talk some local politics after we talk about this day, because that's why. Because Ray's he's already got me going here during the break on Clay Pell and a couple things. So don't go anywhere. We're going to get to that, and of course his swim empowerment project. So let's go. Did you hear what I had to say about the schools?
Yes.
Talk to me.
I think you're right, and I think you're wrong. This is another racial divide.
Okay.
All the schools I know, Central Falls, Providence, and the like, Detroit, which I pay a little attention to,
Right.
my brother's a school teacher, they have done Martin Luther King Jr. Day last week on the real day, and then some of them Thursday and Friday. They've had speakers and the like. I was talking to a teacher, and I'll leave the suburb out. Of course, they did nothing, the kind of thing you're talking about. So I don't think you have to be in school to do it on the day of. Christmas lasts a month in my house.
No, I understand.
We go to church 11 times, and so I think you're right about what's going on, but it doesn't have to happen on the day.
Okay. Okay. I just feel like even and I've heard this from teachers and coaches, even young African American kids need a lesson in history.
Everybody needs a lesson.
Right. So. This notion that we've come so far, and obviously we have, and still have so far to go, and that the new problem of bigotry or racism or whatever is subtle, that requires some high-level thinking, right?
So I'm a guest on your show, and this is your house, but let me disagree with you again. This is not subtle. And I serve on the parole board.
I'm quoting folks. I'm not suggesting that I've decided it's subtle.
So they don't know what they're talking about, because I'm out at the prison and I see who's in prison and what they're there for. And I see what their sentences are, and I see what support they have or don't have. I'm watching the Providence Public Schools as I have for 30 years. They're dismal. They're in total decline. We have 10 failing high schools out of 11. This is a sin, and some of us are going to have to pay for it. So we have 2 states, 3 states, 5 states, Barrington's doing well, and half of Providence is doing awful. The other half of Providence, I live up on the top of the east side, and we'll talk about swimming in a few minutes, I hope. We've got to fix this, and we're perfectly capable of doing it. It's not subtle. It's awful. The graduation rate,
You know
it's
what?
awful.
I'm going to concede. I think you've centered me and centered the conversation once again. I guess, by the way, I'm reading the stories today in the paper, and there's this subtle discussion. I guess what we're saying is, I don't because you happen to be a black man, I don't I don't, because I don't anymore ask you to go to a different bathroom.
Correct.
You know, we've changed from the awful acute part of the civil rights, you know, and but clearly the prisms that we will think and talk through are not akin, and I think that's more on me.
But can I be positive to go with my negative?
Yeah.
I was telling Dylan that when I was a kid of 7 years old,
Dylan's with him here. So.
big nail went through my foot at a public beach, and I almost bled to death because they took me to the wrong hospital, and black people could not be treated at that hospital. And so 50, you know.
And that would never happen today.
That would not happen today. So
Right.
we have made this enormous progress in all kinds of arenas. Just look at all the suburbs of Providence are racially integrated, 1%, 2%, 3%.
But the thing here is there's still a subtlety compared to that you're referring to when it comes to performance in the schools. There's a
In the city of Barrington, if that high school started to fail, that government would be out. It would not be permitted. It would not be. We think this is normal. To have the graduation rates we have in Central Falls and Providence is a sin. It is wrong. In Providence, they're spending $300 million.
Can you come on? Check your schedule. Can you come on the radio this week, tomorrow, or whatever? And I'll let.
Because
I want to talk more about this, don't you?
But before we leave, Dr. King,
Yeah.
may I say a word of praise
Sure.
on behalf of Italian Americans, white women, black women, Latinos, black men. When I was a kid, if you had a vowel behind your name, you couldn't work at certain law firms, you couldn't work at certain accounting firms, and don't be black. All of this has changed, and most of it relates to the Civil Rights Acts of 64 and 65.
Okay, so I don't know where we are on the school board of that conversation, but I'm just going to say good points. When we come back, the project that he's been working on that has been less than or more than subtle bigotry, where he's fighting it, and I've made a point about that already. But then we got a little political fact. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. I'm going to ask Ray to come on the radio tomorrow because we're not. This is a precursor to what could be a heck of a friendly battle royal tomorrow on the radio if I can get him in there. I made commentary about Clay Pell, and you're offended, disagreeing, blah 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 blah. Quick, don't go slow.
He's perfectly qualified to be governor of Rhode Island. Perfectly qualified. And I told you have to be careful because you're still a young man. People are using. I
love it when you say that.
No, people are using the internet and the like to do all kinds of things you and I don't do.
Oh please.
Seriously.
Oh come on. You know what?
How many Christmas cards did you get?
How many Christmas cards did I get?
Yes, people don't do that.
Hey,
By the
listen,
way,
my refrigerator was full. You didn't get too many? I'll make sure I send you one next year.
no.
Look, come on. You know, oh, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. You know what? If they're not public figures
Yes.
moving toward this grand race, they don't wish each other happy anniversary on Twitter. You don't want to give me that?
So you didn't watch the First Lady of the United States have her 50th birthday in public?
She's the first lady.
Oh, okay. It's a
She's
new-
earned it.
I don't want to argue with you, except to tell you
Yes,
it's
you
a
do.
new age,
Yes, you do.
and people are using.
Oh, I don't need that nonsense.
Media.
You know what? We'll agree to disagree. We're going to continue this on the radio tomorrow. You think Pell is qualified? I saw one 20-minute
Yes,
interview, and I thought
yes.
to myself, so far, empty
Yes.
vessel. And I'm not feeding into the news media's, fascination on pedigree and celebrity with no substantial work behind it to be the top elected official in this state. You got to work for it, man. Ray, you got to work for it. Last word. You have the last word on this because then I want to
No,
ask you.
he's a great human being. I told you I have
Could be.
I have biases. He's very intelligent, very capable, moral, decent.
Is he your candidate?
Hardworking.
Come on.
Not yet.
Come on.
We do live on the same block.
All right. Swimempowerment.org. I don't have a lot of time here. Ray's been on the program before. We've documented their incredible work. That Davy Lope's pool has not been shut down permanently, although I don't trust anybody until there's a good decision made by the city government. On this, you and I are in complete concert. Give me a 30, 45-second update on where we are with
So
that.
the commission put together by the council and the mayor is meeting next week.
Yes.
Lots of public people are going to go to the meeting and every meeting, and we're going to push them for a a report earlier than later, so this pool can be fixed and open longer than it has been since the 1950s.
Yeah, and that was an example of bad policy, which did have bigotry at the minimum, racial implications.
The
no doubt.
mayor came around.
He did.
Yes.
Slowly. But go to swimempowerment.org so you can see all the things that Ray is doing, because it's a multi-year project to get kids to be in the water.
And by the way, a lot of people are doing it.
Right. Yeah, it's growing, and everyone kind of gets it. All right. I hope you come on tomorrow, because we got some arguing to do.
Thank you.
Happy MLK
Thank
Day.
you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure and an honor. All right. Your state of mind. We come back to you. Mr. Rickman will join me on the radio tomorrow at noontime to continue that conversation about Mr. Pell and all of that, and you know, kind of spread it around on some of the issues of the city as well, because that's important. Twitter. Oh, you know, yeah, there you go. Your state of mind. I'm all flummoxed. It's Monday. 228-1886. Leave me a voicemail or send me an email. It's all up there. Here's what somebody sent. What did they on Facebook? This was on the poor kids that are snorting the Smarties. Stop that. Yeah, it brings a new meaning to a sugar high. Parents, your middle school kids are snorting Smarties. Tell them to stop that. Not good for them. And this voicemail from Phil, who's got a bone to pick with me. Can you imagine?
You're after Alan Fung. Why don't you just come out and say that Ken Block is your boy? There's a process to everything. Let them investigate it. Let them find out what it is, and go from there.
Nobody's my boy in this race, I can promise you. And Alan Fung has had a bad management run. So there's time to cure it all, but he must hurry. Hey, listen, you have a great evening. Tomorrow, Joe Rodeo, the lawyer for the Cranston Police Department, on the Cranston Parking Ticket Blitz at 7:30. Good night.